Greetings. Did you know that electric cars produce about the same amount of carbon emissions as a gas power equivalent? The next couple minutes, I'm going to tell you how that's so and a couple other dirty details about electric cars. So, electric cars or EVs are gaining in popularity. They're selling more every year, and more car companies are starting to manufacture them. So, they're gaining a lot of speed in the car buying realm, and they are affordable while they do cost a little more upfront than a gas powered vehicle or a gas powered equivalent, I should say. They're a similar price, so it's a solid alternative as they're better for the environment as gas-powered vehicles and they're new products. So a lot of people love having the new things on the market. Now, let me break down the costs for you. So the average annual cost for an electric car is about $500, and it's rated about $1,100 for a gas-powered vehicle. So that's less than half of the cost to to power your electric car for a year. Now, that's of course because you don't have your standard gas-powered consumables such as oil and engines parts like that because it's all electric. But of course, you still have your standard upkeep such as tires and getting it washed and all that stuff. But there are some incentives for buying electric cars, which contributes to their gain in popularity. I know the state of California has some pretty solid tax breaks for buying an electric car because it's better for the environment and whatnot. But when you break it down, it depends where that electricity comes from. So while a standard gas-powered car produces about a pound of carbon emissions per mile, then if you power your electric car with electricity from coal, it makes about 8/10 of a pound per mile of greenhouse emissions. So that is 2/10 of a pound difference from the gas to the electric. That's not much. But if you charge your electric car with electricity from renewable resources, that decreases down to 0 pounds per mile of carbon emissions. So with that electricity production, only 17.5% of electricity produced in the US in 2019 was renewable. So that's a lot of fossil fuel created electricity. So fossil fuels are still powering electric cars whether or not it seems like it. It's not direct because you don't put gas in it, but if the fossil fuels create the electricity to charge the car is still running off of fossil fuels. And so if the EVs they're mainly charged at home essentially because that's where it's going to be most often to have the ability to be charged. So that comes into practicality. Now, the range is about 250 miles for an electric vehicle, and it's more pushing 400 or even better for most gas-powered cars. So with a smaller range like that and taking a couple hours versus a couple minutes to refill a tank to recharge versus refill your gas, it's not good for long trips. It'd just be for commuting as long as the commute is a shorter travel. So with charging at home, you'll have to get a charging station installed because you can charge it off of a 120 volt outlet like normal, but that will take a lot longer and it will cost a lot more in your electricity bill than putting in a charging station that bumps it up to 240 volts. Now, charging stations can cost from $800 to $1,300 or even more to be installed, but that's just tying into your house's electricity. So that still pulls from that mostly fossil fueled electricity creation. So then you can maybe think about solar powered. Well, a solar powered charging station can cost over $7,000, and that's without a storage battery. So that would be a long, slow charge because there's no power stored. It's all direct power from the sun through the solar panel into the car. Now you can swap and do a whole home system for solar power, and there's a national average of about $13,000 for a 6 kilowatt home system that may not power much of your house, but it'll definitely keep up on the electric car, and that will help push you to the zero carbon emissions, which makes sense for being good for the environment, being green energy. Another problem with electric cars are how their batteries are produced. Now, most of the batteries are lithium ion, which use a lot of cobalt, and 60%, over 60% of the world's cobalt is mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which doesn't have the best labor laws, if any, really. So there's a lot of child labor, a lot of low or unpaid labor, and there's several other materials such as manganese, nickel, graphite that are sort of harder to find materials that drive up the cost of batteries. But the only thing that ensures that the batteries in your electric car are from good sources are company policies. So it's up to the company to ensure that they only buy from quality sources. Now, there are future company goals to make batteries out of alternative materials that would further reduce the battery cost, make them easier to create, easier to replace. And there's future goals for by 2030 to have a battery cost under $100, which is pretty good. So in conclusion, while electric cars are good for the environment as long as they are charged through renewable resources such as solar power, and they they have to be used in the right ways. But if if people don't get those renewable resource chargers, and the batteries aren't produced in the best ways, and recharge times are too long to really take it on long trips with low low ranges, and the additional costs assorted that come with them, with the charging stations and whatnot. It's not the best right now, but I think it could be very good in the future as long as enough things change. So thank you.